And another warm welcome. I'm actually really pleased with the slide that I've made here because I think it tells an awful lot. So this one is 5001 Menu Overview Tour. Really what we're looking at, which is quite incredible really, because you've got the whole thing of Google Earth Studio, which runs inside Google Chrome, of course, from your Google account and saves stuff inside Google Drive. And within it, you've got this File, Edit, View, Overlays, Animation, and Help set of menus. On the right-hand side, the ones that are videos 5.2 to 5.5 are going to be the extras that you're about to see. So in other words, 3D cities, scale existing new, whatever that means, project set defaults, and searching organizing files will be a separate little video. Now, one of the things here on the very bottom of the slide I can highlight, Mike Downs, which is me, has been using Google Earth Studio for 8 weeks. So in other words, when I start looking at these file, edit, view things, you're getting a little bit, not a lot, but some experience of somebody like me who has literally stepped on the earth before you have got it, if that makes sense. Just a little thing that in our demonstration coming up in a second or two, we're talking about Seattle in Washington State, which is just beautiful, like most, if not all of the earth is. So let's swap over and just go through some of the highlights on the menu overview tour. So what we do is we start off, and I am going to put this on full screen. And the reason I am is because you can see what we see right up here on the... Again, do you know what? Let's not do that, and let's do it, and you'll see a work on the fly in progress. Now let's try 150% and see what happens, because you as the viewer will actually see better. So starting off with the menu tour, some of these things are really obvious. Some of the things are buried a little bit deep, I would say, bearing in mind if you look that the file, edit, view, overlay and animation isn't super wide on screen. To be fair, they can add extra things here on version 2 and moving on. Remember, this runs inside of Chrome. File new. I would say there is very little there going on, apart from, of course, the zoom, point-to-points, orbits, spiral, and fly to and orbits. In other words, that's where you get them. Open a file, open recent. Save, save as. Import. Now, bearing in mind that what you can import is an ESP, which is an Earth Studio project, the ESB Earth Studio bundle with some KMLs as well, and just pure KMLs or KMZs. If you're not sure what they are, and remember these tutorials are for people who are very, very new to this, maybe their first ever time looking at some kind of like Earth animation software, exporting similar. This thing of JSXs, I think that's for the, he says flicking his fingers, the Adobe After Effects stuff. Project settings is one of those things which I'm going to demonstrate in a future video. At the moment, what you can do is you can change things, but more importantly, you can scale the existing keyframes to a new duration. That is something I want to demonstrate separately, so stay tuned. What it does in actual fact is changes the 450 frames to, let's say, whatever you want it, but if there's a ton of keyframes along the way, then they automatically scale, and that's worth looking at separately. So let's go as quick as we can, but be thorough. Project settings is, preferences is another separate video, and the reason it is because you can start off here and not only set up your preferences, but you can set quite a few different things, field of view, time of day, depending on how you use Earth Studio or a particular project. Rendering, default file names. Do you know what? I love the way I can't speak sometimes because it makes me human. You can see all these different things here that you can change, and user, and some of those things. Let's come off that one because I said that was a future one, and let's move quicker. So really, edit, you can see that there's very little to see apart from the obvious copying, pasting, undo, redo, and selecting all. View, multi-view, which is these doubling up on the viewports. So middle right of screen 1, 2, I can change it and go to, say, that viewport, and also the top camera. So in other words, this is another way of changing it, the multi views. Toggle viewports is a W, did not know that. Preview quality, mine is normal. Guides. Now this is a pretty important one because there's a project or two, and I'm just going to save this back to a single, is that I really could not have done the dolly zoom video I made without these very strict grid lines. Another one here that giving this tour is grids to safe margins. Safe margins are interesting because they give a couple of rectangles around the outside so you can kind of frame your project. And also, if you're interested in the other one, hard to see, but it's actually a center. There is a crosshair in there. Can you see it? Let me see if I move that a little bit. Can you see the cross? Yeah, there you go. The crosshair's dead in the center. Sometimes you may never use this, and all of a sudden you'll do a different project, and you think, oh, if only I could do this. And then there'll be a nice guide that pops up. Viewport Mask is something, again, I had for weeks and I didn't even realise you could change it. And that is, if you go down to the Viewpoint Mask of 0 and save it, you can see there is no mask. So quite honestly, it looks lovely widescreen, but you don't actually know what is included in your video or not. So if you go back to the Viewpoint Mask and quite honestly put it right up to 100%, then what you're doing is you're blacking out the sides, and you can see very clearly what is going on with the little videos, in this case of Seattle, that you are making, because that literally gives you the 16:9 of the thing that you are making. But if you go and put this Viewpoint Mask on a default of something like 30, I think it was 29, I think the default when you open up Studio is 30, and in this example there is quite a fine line between, in my view anyway, of the left and the right, and it doesn't clarify exactly what you're getting the finished article when you save or render. So available 3D cities is another separate video, and that is something that if I did scroll right out, we can see that Google does this quite lovely job of actually putting on, he says losing it, the 3D cities. Let me go back to the timeline and snap that again. So let's move on. Available 3D cities I've taken off. Track points is something to do with, well, tracking points for After Effects. Won't touch that today. Overlays is a whole separate section for me in the future, and that is something with the KMLs that come on. I haven't made any at the moment. It's a future video, so all I'm saying is that that's where you can find it. Animation, render, all of these auto eases is where to find them. I think we're pretty much done. I can cover that. Google themselves have covered that. Help, of course, documentation, user forum feedback, very important. Send feedback either from help feedback or top right of screen. Keyboard shortcuts, and then the about, which is really important, is I keep checking this every so often to literally see that we're still on version 1, but we could be on other versions. So I would say, actually, let's skedaddle. He says, how do you get out full screen? It's escape. F11, isn't it? I would say that going back to my original slide here, going on to full screen, I have covered a very fast, he says, at 8 minutes 40, a menu overview of Google Earth Studio. I'm particularly making these because for brand new users, and 5002 look will talk about actually 3D cities, so I better say goodbye and then come back in the next video. See you later.